emphatically yes. But, you know, surgical decisions are a lot more complicated than that, and we'll talk more about that in the future. Well, Countdown to the Cup is coming up next. I hope you enjoy it. I'll see you tomorrow night after Friday Night Football. Thanks to Ryan Williams and Sweeney. I'm Howie Rose. Enjoy the show.
This is the sound of Jets football on the Fan.
Handoff to Johnny Johnson. Johnson out across the 5 to the 10, the 15, 20-yard line, 25. Being chased from behind, 30, 35, 40. Breaks away, 50-yard line. Still going, 40-yard line. Cuts to the center of the field. He might go all the way. Being chased from behind, 20, 15, 10. And he is down at the 6-yard line.
And this Sunday, the Jets travel to Cleveland to take on Vinny Testaverde and the Browns. You'll hear all the play-by-play with Paul Olden and Dave Jennings with game time at 1 p.m. And listen for Jets kickoff at 11:50 with Ian Eagle right after the NFL Now, here on the flagship station for Jets football. Sports Radio 66, WFAN, New York. WFAN 2020 Sports.
It's 8 o'clock. I'm Bill Daughtry.
After much discussion, the players decided to make a significant proposal to the league.
Low temperatures dropping into the 40s in the suburbs. Tomorrow, mostly sunny and breezy, high temperatures in the upper 60s. Looking ahead to Friday night, increasing clouds, low again in the 40s in the suburbs, in the 50s in Midtown Manhattan. Currently, 60 degrees under partly cloudy skies in Central Park. And that's what's happening. I'm Bill Daughtry with 2020 Sports on WFAN, the flagship station for New York Jets football.
This weekend, the Rangers start their journey to make it 2 Stanley Cups in a row as they open up the season at the Meadowlands on Saturday night at 7:30. Howie Rose and Sal Messina will bring you all the action. We've also got a ton of great football on the Fan this weekend. Bill Walsh and the Stanford Cardinals visit South Bend and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish at 2:30 Saturday afternoon. Then on Sunday, it's an NFL doubleheader with the Jets in Cleveland to meet the Browns at 1 p.m. and the Dolphins and Bengals in Cincinnati at 7:45. All this plus scores, highlights, and your chance to talk sports on Sports Radio 66, WFAN, New York. Sports Radio 66, WFAN, New York.
Graves with number 51, and here come the Rangers to congratulate Adam Graves. He has number 50 and now number 51 in this period. He's given the Rangers a 2-0 lead. And here's Messier racing on a breakaway, cuts in, he shoots, he scores! And that, my friends, will bury the New York Islanders. Mark Messier cashes in a breakaway, and the Rangers in 2:52, unless there's a miracle, will make it a 4-game washout of the New York Islanders. It's a 5-2 Ranger lead. Kovalev's got it. Cross ice Leach moving to the New Jersey line. Drops it for Kovalev. Left circle. Slap shot. Save. Rebound. Score. Messier. Messier has cashed in the rebound with 7:48 to go in the third period. And the Rangers take a 3-2 lead. Matteau swoops in to intercept. Matteau behind the net. Swings it in front. He scores! Matteau! 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 Stefan Matteau! And the Rangers have one more hill to climb, baby! But it's not Vancouver! The Rangers are headed to the final!
With 1 and 6/10 seconds, puck is dropped. McTavish control, and it's all over. The New York Rangers have won the Stanley Cup. Something that most people did not think they would hear in their lifetime. And they are going wild here at Madison Square Garden. The New York Rangers have won the Stanley Cup.
It's Countdown to the Cup, WFAN's tribute to the 1993-1994 Rangers. Over the next few hours, we'll take you back through the regular season and the unforgettable playoffs that gave the Rangers their first Stanley Cup in 54 years. Now, here's your host, Howie Rose.
You know, it's the funny thing about 1940. If it was meant as just a simple reminder, it almost would have been pleasant. After all, it's fun to think back and reflect on a championship season. But But to the New York Rangers and their fans, 1940 was no wistful stroll down memory lane. It was a taunt, a verbal blow to the solar plexus of anyone who had ever cared about the Rangers. 1940, of course, was the year that the Rangers had last won the Stanley Cup. And with each passing unsuccessful spring, even their most devoted fans had to wonder if another Ranger Cup victory had been relegated to the department of not meant to be, also occupied by dreams of world championships for the Boston Red Sox and Chicago Cubs. Think about it. Since winning the Cup in 1940, the Rangers had made just 3 appearances in the Stanley Cup Finals. In fact, they spent large chunks of the ensuing years either out of the playoffs altogether or losing in the playoffs for a myriad of reasons and in an assortment of ways that suggested that perhaps it really wasn't meant to be for them to win again. But then came 2 months during the spring of 1994 when the Rangers withstood every fateful attempt at prolonging the agony until finally there were no more demonically motivated shots to be fired, no more crossbars or goal posts to inflict wrought iron suffering, nothing to prevent the New York Rangers and their fans from finally stepping forward and proclaiming to all who had chanted that they would need new material. This is the story of the 1993-94 Stanley Cup champion, New York Rangers. Incidentally, the music you're hearing and will continue to hear throughout the show has been a staple at and around Rangers games. It was written by J. Fred Coots. It's called the New York Rangers Victory Song, and it made its debut in, pardon the expression, 1940.
Countdown to the Cup will continue on Sports Radio 66, WFAN, New York.
Livery and black car drivers, let's be honest. To start your Lumina without your special key. Now, you might be willing to pay extra for that, but it's standard. That's what makes the new Lumina a genuine Chevrolet.
Bill Walsh and the Stanford Cardinal are coming to South Bend. Now let's rejoin Howie Rose.
The Rangers began the 1993-94 season with a new head coach. Mike Keenan was hired by Rangers president and general manager Neil Smith immediately following a disastrous 1992-93 season, which saw the team miss the playoffs just 1 year after winning the President's Trophy as the team with the best regular season record in the National Hockey League. A taskmaster, to be sure, Keenan was one of the league's most accomplished coaches, having guided the Philadelphia Flyers to the Stanley Cup Finals twice and the Chicago Blackhawks once during his career without ever having won the Cup. From the opening of training camp, Keenan declared that this talent-laden team would set winning the Cup right away as its goal. They beat the Toronto Maple Leafs in a pair of September exhibition games in London, England, and had a solid preseason before facing the Boston Bruins in the regular season opener at Madison Square Garden. Third-period defensive breakdowns cost the Rangers as they lost to the Bruins 4-3. 2 nights later, Keenan earned his first win behind the Ranger bench in a 5-4 home win against the Tampa Bay Lightning. But it was a struggle. It took a clutch save by Ranger goalie Glenn Healy in the closing seconds to clinch it.
One last dash for Tampa Bay. Anderson takes on the left wing. He's to the Ranger line. Dumps back behind the goal. Lowe tries to sweep it around the boards. He does. Can't clear out, though. Chambers keeps it. Final seconds. Chambers to the far corner. Leads Savard. Back to Chambers. Into the shot. Save and a beauty by Healy. He holds on with 1 1/10 of a second remaining.
Well, what you want is the big save from your goaltender, and the Rangers got it there from Glenn Healy.
Well, the Rangers killed that last second and change to pick up the win, but Keenan's history suggested that he would find certain players on his team who would have trouble assimilating into his aggressive physical system, and that there would be benchings galore along the way. And in that Tampa game, Darren Turcotte and Tony Amati spent large chunks of time on the bench. During the next game, a 3-2 loss to the Penguins in Pittsburgh, it was defenseman James Patrick's turn. Veteran setter Eddie Olczyk was scratched from the season's first 3 games, and when he did dress, was used sparingly. Even star defenseman Brian Leach and captain Mark Messier were not totally immune. In fact, Leach spent large chunks of power play time on the bench during a 4-2 loss to the expansion Mighty Ducks of Anaheim at the Garden. That left the Rangers with 4 wins and 4 losses after their first 8 games, and clearly Keenan was not happy. Prior to the team's next game in St. Petersburg against the Lightning, Keenan ripped into Ranger defenseman Sergei Zubov.
Zubov simply has to learn to become a lot more intense in his approach and play to his ability every shift. He came into camp with a very poor attitude. We've given him a second chance. We've given him a chance to overcome some of his deficiencies in terms of his approach. He was the worst fit athlete in the camp, which is unacceptable. I suppose in some cases it's even fortunate that he's here, but he has so much talent. We're trying to give him an opportunity to display it, and hopefully he'll respond and learn whether he'll grasp it or is ready to grasp it or wants to grasp it. At this point, I don't know. Maybe it's going to take him a year.
Well, it certainly didn't take a year, although Zubov played that night as though he had listened to the pregame show, committing countless giveaways during a 4-1 Ranger loss. But Keenan believed in his young defenseman. He dressed him for the team's next game, despite the mistakes against Tampa Bay, and before long, Zubov was a legitimate star. In fact, that loss to Tampa would be the Rangers' last for more than a month. They stopped their 3-game losing streak with a 3-2 win over the Los Angeles Kings at the Garden. The Kings' net is empty as Robitaille goes rink wide for Blake. It's off his stick, hammered to the line by Leach, but not out. Robitaille keeps in and goes cross-ice, but it's behind Taylor. Now Taylor gets to it in the corner. Checked by Karpovtsev, takes it away, tries to clear. Sidor keeps in. Cross-ice Blake. He fires one that's blocked by Graves. Recovered in the corner by Robitaille, puts it in front. Taylor whacking at it, but Richter's got it, and play is stopped with just 7/10 of a second remaining. 7/10 of a second. Not nearly enough for the Los Angeles Kings to inflict any more damage on the Rangers, as the Rangers won the game with goaltender Mike Richter picking up his first win since March 19th of 1993. He had lost his last 9 starts. Then on October 28th at the Garden, the Rangers were 10 seconds away from a loss against the defending Stanley Cup champion Montreal Canadiens. But some late heroics earned them a tie. 20 seconds to go. Graves in to put a big hit on. Gets it to Messier. Now to Zubov at the point. Cross-ice Keenan at the right circle. Back to Zubov for a one-timer. He scores! Sergei Zubov has tied it with 9.9 seconds remaining in the third period. They're howling at the Garden. The Rangers have climbed out of a 3-1 hole and have evened it up at 3. On November the 2nd, Ranger President and General Manager Neil Smith satisfied Keenan's request to import holdout right wing Steve Larmer, a talented veteran who had played for Keenan in Chicago. Larmer had been traded that same day from the Blackhawks to the Hartford Whalers, and the Rangers obtained him by sending Turcotte and Patrick to the Whalers, with forward Nick Kyprios and defense prospect Barry Richter also coming to New York. The next night, against the Vancouver Canucks at the Garden, Larmer made a successful Ranger debut.
Almonte follows the rebound, moves behind his net, setting up behind the goal, stick handling, waiting for an opening, cuts to his right, still waiting, and then swings it out to Lowe at the near boards. Back it goes to Almonte behind the net. Almonte centers, shot, score! It's Larmer firing it home for his first goal as a Ranger.
New York's 6-3 win over the Canucks stretched their unbeaten streak to 5, with every facet of the club's operation becoming stronger from night to night. On November the 13th in Washington, the Rangers took over first place in the Atlantic Division with a 2-0 shutout over the Capitals. For the 4th straight game, New York did some damage while playing a man short. Minute 20 to go on this one as Ridley moves up the right side, sends Burridge in over the Ranger line. He backs up, veers left, tries a cross-ice pass that hit Gartner. Zubov back up with it, sends Messier up the right side. Gartner helping out. Messier carries in, pulls up, hits the trailer. Lowe, who moves in. Kevin Lowe centers. Gartner a shot, save made, but Gartner scores on the rebound. And there's another short-handed goal for the New York Rangers, their 9th of the season. They lead it 2-0. And after holding Washington 0 for 5 on the power play, the Rangers had killed off 23 straight penalties. That was their 7th straight win, increasing New York's unbeaten streak to 8. Eventually, the streak reached 14 with 12 wins and 2 ties, finally ending in the place that had become the haunted house of the National Hockey League, at least as far as the Rangers were concerned, the Nassau Coliseum. Since beating the Islanders there in October of 1989, the Rangers had no wins, 11 losses, and 3 ties in their next 14 regular season visits, and that string of aggravation continued in a 6-4 Islander win. But the Rangers won their next 2 games, so when they faced the Maple Leafs in Toronto on the night of December 4th, the Rangers' record of 19 wins, 6 losses, and 2 ties was second in the National Hockey League. second only to that of the Maple Leafs. So the top two teams in the league produced one of the most memorable games of the season. The Leafs led 3-2 going to the third period. Early in the third, Adam Graves, one of several Rangers with family at the game, pulled New York even on the power play.
Leach backs up, slides it to Zubov straight away at the point. Cross-ice Leach. He's by the right point, turns, wrists one off the chest of Potvin. Messier back on the puck in the right circle, pulls up, fires, save made, rebound, Graves, he scores! Adam Graves with a power play goal. Larmer was in there whacking away at it too and was whacked to the ice himself, but the Rangers on the power play have tied it at 3.
They look like they were on a mission. They're really driving to the net, really looking for the loose puck, gathering it up, getting the shots on goal, and they finally got it. It was Graves, I think, Howie, who got a piece of it as Messier bombed one for the face-off circle on the right wing side, and I believe it was Graves who got a piece of it.
And now with the score tied, Steve Larmer received a game misconduct for high-sticking Dave Andrechuk. For a minute 1, the Rangers played 2 men short, but survived long enough for Mike Gartner to win it for New York.
Able to slide it just past Gilmore out to center. Messier chasing down, plays the puck, carries in deep centers. Gartner, he scores! Gartner went to the net, and Messier from the right wing side just threw it in front. And for Mike Gartner, that's number 597 lifetime. And the Rangers have taken a 4-3 lead with 5:31 remaining in the third period.
Now, what a great play by Mark Messier. Messier, who just gave it everything he had to get by Jamie McCowan and bust up that right side, created the opportunity.
The Rangers' 4-3 victory in Toronto clearly established them among the league's elite, with Ranger players approaching a variety of milestones. On December the 19th, the Rangers beat the Ottawa Senators 6-3 at the Garden, and for Mike Richter, it was his 20th straight decision without a loss, breaking Davey Kerr's all-time Ranger record of 19, set during that last championship season, 1939-40. Richter's unbeaten streak included 17 wins and 3 ties. End of the game, Mike Gartner scored his 599th National Hockey League goal. Only 5 players in the history of the National Hockey League had scored 600 goals. And 1 week later, against the New Jersey Devils at Madison Square Garden, Gartner joined the fraternity. Puck to the near boards, Gartner takes it out. Up the left side, Kovalev. Kovalev moves in, centers, Gartner scores! There it is! Mike Gartner has just become the 6th player in the history of the National Hockey League to score 600 career goals. So Gordie Howe, Wayne Gretzky, Phil Esposito, Marcel Dion, Bobby Hull, shove over, boys. Make room for Mike Gartner in the 600 club. The Rangers take a 7-3 lead. And the Rangers all off the bench to congratulate Gartner. The Rangers won that game 8-3, beating their division rivals for the 4th time in as many meetings. Essentially the difference between first and second place in the Atlantic Division.
The countdown to the Cup will continue on Sports Radio 66, York Rangers. Now let's rejoin Howie Rose.
The Rangers began the 1993-94 season with a new head coach. Mike Keenan was hired by Rangers president and general manager Neil Smith immediately following a disastrous 1992-93 season, which saw the team miss the playoffs just 1 year after winning the President's Trophy as the team with the best regular season record in the National Hockey League. A taskmaster, to be sure, Keenan was one of the league's most accomplished coaches, having guided the Philadelphia Flyers to the Stanley Cup Finals twice and the Chicago Blackhawks once during his career without ever having won the Cup. From the opening of training camp, Keenan declared that this talent-laden team would set winning the Cup right away as its goal. They beat the Toronto Maple Leafs in a pair of September exhibition games in London, England, and had a solid preseason before facing the Boston Bruins in the regular season opener at Madison Square Garden. Third-period defensive breakdowns cost the Rangers as they lost to the Bruins 4-3. 2 nights later, Keenan earned his first win behind the Ranger bench in a 5-4 home win against the Tampa Bay Lightning. But it was a struggle. It took a clutch save by Ranger goalie Glenn Healy in the closing seconds to clinch it.
One last dash for Tampa Bay. Anderson takes on the left wing. He's to the Ranger line. Dumps back behind the goal. Lowe tries to sweep it around the boards. He does. Can't clear out, though. Chambers keeps it. Final seconds. Chambers to the far corner. Leads Savard. Back to Chambers. Over the shot. Glove save and a beauty by Healy. He holds on with 1 1/10 of a second remaining.
Well, what you want is the big save from your goaltender. And the Rangers got it there from Glenn Healy.
Well, the Rangers killed that last second and change to pick up the win, but Keenan's history suggested that he would find certain players on his team who would have trouble assimilating into his aggressive physical system, and that there would be benchings galore along the way. And in that Tampa game, Darren Turcotte and Tony Amati spent large chunks of time on the bench. During the next game, a 3-2 loss to the Penguins in Pittsburgh, it was defenseman James Patrick's turn. Veteran center Eddie Olczyk was scratched from the season's first 3 games, and when he did dress, was used sparingly. Even star defenseman Brian Leetch and captain Mark Messier were not totally immune. In fact, Leetch spent large chunks of power play time on the bench during a 4-2 loss to the expansion Mighty Ducks of Anaheim at the Garden. That left the Rangers with 4 wins and 4 losses after their first 8 games, and clearly Keenan was not happy. Prior to the team's next game in St. Petersburg against the Lightning, Keenan ripped into Ranger defenseman Sergei Zubov.
Zubov simply has to learn to become a lot more intense in his approach and play to his ability every shift. He came into camp with a very poor attitude. We've given him a second chance. We've given him a chance to overcome some of his deficiencies in terms of his approach. He was the worst fit athlete in the camp, which is unacceptable. I suppose in some cases it's even fortunate that he's here, but he has so much talent. We're trying to give him an opportunity to display it, and hopefully he'll respond and learn whether he'll grasp it or is ready to grasp it or wants to grasp it. At this point, I don't know. Maybe it's going to take him a year.
Well, it certainly didn't take a year, although Zubov played that night as though he had listened to the pregame show, committing countless giveaways during a 4-1 Ranger loss. But Keenan believed in his young defenseman. He dressed him for the team's next game, despite the mistakes against Tampa Bay, and before long, Zubov was a legitimate star. In fact, that loss to Tampa would be the Rangers' last for more than a month. They stopped their 3-game losing streak with a 3-2 win over the Los Angeles Kings at the Garden.
The Kings' net is empty as Robitaille goes rink wide for Blake. It's off his stick, hammered to the line by Leach, but not out. Robitaille keeps in and goes cross-ice, but it's behind Taylor. Now Taylor gets to it in the corner. Checked by Karpovtsev, takes it away, tries to clear. Sidor keeps in. Cross-ice Blake. He fires one that's blocked by Graves. Recovered in the corner by Robitaille, puts it in front. Taylor whacking at it, but Richter's got it, and play is stopped with just 7/10 of a second remaining.
7/10 of a second. Not nearly enough for the Los Angeles Kings to inflict any more damage on the Rangers, as the Rangers won the game with goaltender Mike Richter picking up his first win since March 19th of 1993. He had lost his last 9 starts. Then on October 28th at the Garden, the Rangers were 10 seconds away from a loss against the defending Stanley Cup champion Montreal Canadiens. But some late heroics earned them a tie.
20 seconds to go. Graves in to put a big hit on. Gets it to Messier. Now to Zubov at the point. Cross-ice Keenan at the right circle. Back to Zubov. 4-1 timer. He scores! Sergei Zubov has tied it with 9.9 seconds remaining in the third period. They're howling at the Garden. The Rangers have climbed out of a 3-1 hole and have evened it up at 3.
On November the 2nd, Ranger president and general manager Neil Smith satisfied Keenan's request to import holdout right wing Steve Larmer, a talented veteran who had played for Keenan in Chicago. Larmer had been traded that same day from the Blackhawks to the Hartford Whalers, and the Rangers obtained him by sending Turcotte and Patrick to the Whalers, with forward Nick Kyprios and defense prospect Barry Richter also coming to New York. The next night against the Vancouver Canucks at the Garden, Larmer made a successful Ranger debut.
Amati follows the rebound, moves behind his net, setting up behind the goal, stick handling, waiting for an opening, cuts to his right, still waiting, and then swings it out to Lowe at the near boards. Back it goes to Amati behind the net. Amati centers, shot, score! It's Larmer firing it home for his first goal as a Ranger.
New York's 6-3 win over the Canucks stretched their unbeaten streak to 5, with every facet of the club's operation becoming stronger from night to night. On November the 13th in Washington, the Rangers took over first place in the Atlantic Division with a 2-0 shutout over the Capitals. For the fourth straight game, New York did some damage while playing a man short.
Minute 20 to go on this one as Ridley moves up the right side, sends Burridge in over the Ranger line. He backs up, veers left, tries a cross-ice pass that hit Gartner. Zubov back up with it, sends Messier up the right side. Gartner helping out. Messier carries in, pulls up, hits the trailer. Lowe, who moves in. Kevin Lowe centers. Gartner, a shot save made, but Gartner scores on the rebound. And there's another short-handed goal for the New York Rangers, their 9th of the season. They lead it 2-0.
And after holding Washington 0 for 5 on the power play, the Rangers had killed off 23 straight penalties. That was their 7th straight win, increasing New York's unbeaten streak to 8. Eventually, the streak reached 14 with 12 wins and 2 ties, finally ending in the place that had become the haunted house of the National Hockey League, at least as far as the Rangers were concerned, the Nassau Coliseum. Since beating the Islanders there in October of 1989, the Rangers had no wins, 11 losses, and 3 ties in their next 14 regular season visits, and that string of aggravation continued in a 6-4 Islander win. But the Rangers won their next 2 games, so when they faced the Maple Leafs in Toronto on the night of December 4th, the Rangers' record of 19 wins, 6 losses, and 2 ties was second in the National Hockey League, second only to that of the Maple Leafs. So the top 2 teams in the league produced one of the most memorable games of the season. The Leafs led 3-2 going to the third period. Early in the third, Adam Graves, one of several Rangers with family at the game, pulled New York even on the power play.
Leach backs up, slides it to Zubov straight away at the point. Cross ice Leach. He's by the right point, turns, wrists one off the chest of Potvin. Messier back on the puck in the right circle, pulls up, fires, save made, rebound Graves, he scores! Adam Graves with a power play goal. Larmer was in there whacking away at it too and was whacked to the ice himself, but the Rangers on the power play have tied it at 3.
They looked like they were on a mission. They're really driving to the net, really looking for the loose puck, gathering it up, getting the shots on goal, and they finally got it, and it was Graves, I think, Howie, who got a piece of it as Messier bombed one for the face-off circle on the right wing side, and I believe it was Graves who got a piece of it.
And now with the score tied, Steve Larmer received a game misconduct for high-sticking Dave Andrechuk. For a minute 1, the Rangers played 2 men short, but survived long enough for Mike Gartner to win it for New York.
Able to slide it just past Gilmore out to center. Messier chasing down, plays the puck, carries in deep, centers, Gartner, he scores! Gartner went to the net, and Messier from the right wing side just threw it in front. And for Mike Gartner, that's number 597 lifetime. And the Rangers have taken a 4-3 lead with 5:31 remaining in the third period.
Now, what a great play by Mark Messier. Messier, who just gave it everything he had to get by Jamie McCowan and bust up that right side, created the opportunity.
The Rangers' 4-3 victory in Toronto clearly established them among the league's elite, with Ranger players approaching a variety of milestones. On December the 19th, the Rangers beat the Ottawa Senators 6-3 at the Garden, and for Mike Richter, it was his 20th straight decision without a loss, breaking Davey Kerr's all-time Ranger record of 19, set during that last championship season, 1939-40. Richter's unbeaten streak included 17 wins and 3 ties. And in the game, Mike Gartner scored his 599th National Hockey League goal. Only 5 players in the history of the National Hockey League had scored 600 goals. And 1 week later, against the New Jersey Devils at Madison Square Garden, Gartner joined the fraternity.
Puck to the near boards, Gartner takes it out. Up the left side, Kovalev. Kovalev moves in, centers, Gartner, scores! There it is! Mike Gartner has just become the 6th player in the history of the National Hockey League to score 600 career goals. So Gordie Howe, Wayne Gretzky, Phil Esposito, Marcel Dion, Bobby Hull, shove over, boys. Make room for Mike Gartner in the 600 club. The Rangers take a 7-3 lead. And the Rangers all off the bench to congratulate Gartner.
The Rangers won that game 8-3, beating their division rivals for the 4th time in as many meetings. Essentially the difference between first and second place in the Atlantic Division.
Countdown to the Cup will continue on Sports Radio 66, WFAN, New York.
Attention parents and grandparents, this year don't let any math. Call 1-800-927-MATH. Used by leading educators, call 1-800-927-MATH. That's 1-800-927-MATH.
Hi, I'm Howie Rose, and from what they tell me, I think you've probably heard me mention the name Matteau several times. Well, now you can meet New York Rangers playoff hero Stefan Matteau this Sunday, October 2nd, from 3 to 5 p.m. at one of my cards, two of my comics. Autographs are $10 each. Photos, pucks, programs, and more will be available for the signing. Call 914-725-2225 for details on how to meet the only player in NHL history to score 2 double overtime winning goals in a playoff series. One of my cards, two of my comics, Westchester's #1 source for New York Rangers items, including CCM authentic and replica hockey jerseys, team jackets, signed and unsigned licensed photos, plaques, lithographs, hockey cards, Stanley Cup merchandise, and more. They also carry a wide variety of new and old sports and non-sports cards, so be sure to stop by. One of my cards, two of my comics this Sunday from 3 to 5 p.m. and meet Stefan Matteau. Call 914-725-2225.
It's Countdown to the Cup on Sports Radio 66, WFAN, New York.
Did you know that the advertised price on most new cars doesn't include the destination charge for delivering them to the dealers? It's true. They charge you extra for that. And on the all-new Chevy Lumina, the destination charge is included in the price.
Home unbeaten streak stopped at
Looks as good on a stick.
Countdown to the Cup, WFAN's tribute to the New York Rangers. Now let's rejoin Howie Rose.
On January 5th, the Rangers had their home unbeaten streak stopped at 16 in a 4-1 loss to the Calgary Flames, although the Rangers did take 53 shots on goal. Still, they stumbled towards the halfway point of the season in a 5-2 loss to Tampa Bay at the Garden. New York's third straight defeat left them 27-12-3 at the end of the first half, still good for first place in the Atlantic Division. In that game, Keenan continued his habit of showing his goaltenders a quick hook. Richter, who had been playing almost every game, was pulled in favor of Glenn Healy for the 6th time this season. On January 14th at the Garden, Gartner tied a Ranger record against the Philadelphia Flyers en route to a 5-2 New York win.
Medic tries to move it in deep. Zubov breaks it up. Can't clear, though. Galley keeps it in.
Tries to center, broken up by Nemchinov, leads Gartner on a breakaway. Gartner moving in. He shoots. He scores! A short-handed goal for Mike Gartner. The 14th of the year for the Rangers, and they lead it 2-0.
Yeah, that ties a team record. 14 has been done twice before.
And for Gartner, it was his 5th shorthanded goal of the season. 2 nights later, what a memorable night. Steve Larmer returned to Chicago Stadium, where he had played his entire 12-year career as a Blackhawk before the early season trade, and he provided some big-time dramatics for his former fans and his new Ranger fans watching at home, too, when he was awarded a penalty shot at the 15:01 mark of the third period.
Steve Larmer. Unbelievable.
Now, keep this in perspective. Larmer broke a bone in his hand on January the 5th against Calgary. A few days later, he had an operation. And here he is on a penalty shot. Larmer takes the puck at the red line. Heads straight in on goal. He slaps it. He scores! Larmer with a slap shot on a penalty shot. And he's getting a standing ovation from the crowd here at Chicago Stadium, for whom he played more than 11 years in the National Hockey League. Steve Larmer converts the penalty shot, and the Rangers lead it 5-1.
Wow. You don't see that very often. Listen to the crowd roar.
Yeah, a slap shot on a penalty shot. Last time I'd seen that happen, Frank Mahovlich, who at the time was playing for the Montreal Canadiens, did it in the Stanley Cup Finals against the Chicago Blackhawks in 1971. Larmer's goal punctuated a 5-1 Ranger win, which gave New York a 29-12-3 record, but some real heroics took place on January 27th in Los Angeles, with the Rangers and Kings tied 4-4 in the waning seconds of overtime. New York's Tony Amati was awarded a penalty shot when the Kings' Tony Granato jumped off the bench illegally.
And here we go. Amati on the penalty shot. Takes the puck at the red line. Moves it over the Kings line. Straight in on goal. He shoots, and the kick save is made by Rudy. Threw his left hand out. Got the glove on it, too. And Kelly Rudy has saved the game again for the Los Angeles Kings.
He just played it perfectly. As soon as Amati picked up the puck, He went out past the crease, and he just backed in as Amante came in.
I mean, it looked like he saved the game for the Kings. There were only 10.5 seconds remaining, so it looked like a sure tie. But Ranger captain Mark Messier gave the Blue Shirts their first overtime win of the season.
And from the draw, dribbles towards the Kings net. Late for the defenseman. Plays it around to the far side. McEachran checked by Zubov. Gets a quick shot on. Save made. Rebound. Messier. He scores! That's a winner! With 1.5 seconds to go in overtime. Messier picked up the loose puck and was able to slide it past Kelly Rudy, and what a remarkable finish for the New York Rangers.
So they won it 5-4, and Messier, well, how many plaudits can you use to describe him? He'd been playing with an injured wrist, in addition to assorted other aches and pains for some time, although just the week before, he, along with Adam Graves, who had 29 goals, Brian Leach, and Mike Richter represented the Rangers in the National Hockey League All-Star game at Madison Square Garden. Richter was voted the game's most valuable player, stopping 19 of 21 shots, including several by Vancouver's Pavel Bure. Keep that in mind, a portent of things to come. The miserable New York winter made travel arrangements occasionally complicated for the Rangers. One snowstorm forced the team to take an 8.5-hour bus ride to Montreal for a game against the Canadiens. And then just a couple of days later, the Rangers had to hit the buses again and take several hours to drive to Albany, that just to take a chartered flight to Ottawa. But through it all, the team remained loose and close-knit. The players who rarely dressed for games, dubbed the Black Aces, didn't complain. They simply sat in the upper ring of the Garden or in press boxes munching on popcorn anywhere they could find it around the league, and they cheered their teammates on. Once in a while, in fact, one of the Black Aces actually played in a game. And on March 2nd against the Quebec Nordiques at Madison Square Garden, defenseman Peter Anderson, playing only his 5th game of the season, made the Aces proud.
In 8 seconds, the Nordiques will have a power play for a minute, too. Here's Anderson at the Ranger line, to the red line. Now to Gartner on right wing, over the line. He drops for Messier, in front Anderson. He's all alone. He backhands, and he scores! And that's a short-handed goal. Peter Anderson pointing to his friends on the roof. They call them the Black Aces, the spare players, and they're all standing up.
A beautiful play as Peter Anderson made the first pass to Mike Gartner. Now, Gartner hung on to it, gave it to Messier, and Anderson just joined in on the play. Oh, a couple of nice digs. He threw the head one way, the shoulders one way, the arms the other way. And went right up to the guys up top.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, those guys up top, the Black Aces, seem to be enjoying things as much as any of the paying customers at Madison Square Garden. They were all howling as Anderson's goal helped the Rangers to a 5-2 win. But 3 days later, on Long Island, the Rangers managed one of their most satisfying wins of the regular season, tied with the Islanders 4-4 and winless since, well, seemingly the Lincoln administration at the Nassau Coliseum. Sergei Zubov broke through.
McInnes trying to clear it around. Is checked by Leach. That keeps the puck in deep to Larmer in the far corner. Steve Larmer turning there. Slides it to Graves along the goal line. Out to the point, Zubov. He cranks, fires. He scores! Zubov! A power play goal with 1:03 to go in regulation time, and the Rangers have taken a 5-4 lead.
Yeah, Steve Larmer came up with a big play. Larmer got that puck and kept it alive. He outraced Hextall to it behind the net. Now, what a shot by Zubov, who continues to come up with the big goals and the big plays for the New York Rangers.
Yeah, a long way since being hammered by Mike Keenan on that pregame show in October. So the Rangers held on for the 5-4 win, ending their 15-game winless streak at the Nassau Coliseum, their first win in the Islanders building in 4.5 years. Both of the Rangers' neutral site games this season were played in a curious outpost, Halifax, Nova Scotia. They beat the Devils there on Halloween night, and then on March 9th, they beat the Washington Capitals 7-5 as Mike Gartner achieved yet another milestone.
Nemchinov on left wing for the Rangers over the line. Nemchinov centers, Keenan deflects it, they score! And it was Gartner who got the deflection. Keenan poked it on goal. Left a rebound for Gartner, and Mike Gartner has just passed Bobby Hall and moved into 5th place on the all-time National Hockey League goal-scoring list. He finished
after a Keenan rebound and has given the Rangers a 4-2 lead with number 611 lifetime. And he's getting a standing ovation from the fans here in Halifax, and give them credit, too. They knew it right away.
That would prove to be Mike Gartner's final goal as a New York Ranger. Less than 2 weeks later, on March 21st, with the Rangers still holding the league's best record, they'd won 44, lost only 22, and tied 6. Neil Smith and Mike Keenan went to work in an effort to make the team bigger and more physically capable of surviving the long playoff grind. The Rangers made a series of trades. Gartner, never a Keenan favorite, was sent to Toronto for former Edmonton playoff standout Glenn Anderson. Another Oilers Stanley Cup winner, Craig McTavish, arrived from Edmonton for prospect Todd Marchand. Keenan imported 2 of his former players from Chicago, getting forward Stefan Matteau and Brian Noonan in exchange for Tony Amati. And Peter Anderson went to the Florida Panthers for a draft pick. It was a gutsy series of moves, considering the Rangers were sitting atop the National Hockey League, but this was the regular season. Remember back 2 years ago, the Rangers won the President's Trophy with the league's best record, but were eliminated in the second round of the playoffs. This year, as Keenan basically said to them in training camp, nothing less than the Stanley Cup would be acceptable. The new players made impressive debuts the night after the deals in Calgary. Glenn Anderson was particularly effective.
Leach holds it in. Down low, Anderson all alone. He shoots, and he scores! A power play goal for Glenn Anderson, his second of the night at his Ranger debut. This one gives the Rangers a 3-2 lead.
But the biggest goal of the night was scored by fellow newcomer Stefan Matteau.
McInnes slams it up the boards. Graves holds it in for Keenan. Shot in front, broken up. Matteau, rebound, score! Matteau with his first Ranger goal on the backhand with 13.9 seconds remaining in the third period. And the Rangers have tied it at 4.
Wow. Well, that's how it ended. Matteau's goal giving the Rangers a point in their first game of a 5-game road trip. But the next night in Edmonton, Adam Graves made Ranger history. Now, before Graves, only Vic Hatfield had scored 50 goals in a season for the New York Rangers. The late Dan Kelly broadcast the game for CBS television when Hatfield scored his 50th in the third period of the Rangers' final game of the 1971-72 regular season.
Gilbert gets it again for the Rangers into Hatfield. Tried to get it back to Gilbert. Hatfield has it again on the point to Nielsen. Over to the other point to Sealing into Hatfield. And what an ovation. Victor Hatfield has got it. Hatfield never hesitated after passing the puck off the board. You'll watch the pass, and he sprints for the net. Here he breaks. And the perfect pass. It couldn't have been better.
And that's another familiar voice, serving as the color analyst on that game all those years ago, working with Dan Kelly, former Ranger broadcaster Jim Gordon. Well, on March 23rd, 1994, Adam Graves tied and then broke Hatfield's 22-year-old Ranger record.
Here come the Rangers. Anderson sending Messier over the line with Graves. Feeds Graves, shoots, he scores! Number 50! There it is for Adam Graves. Captain Vic Hatfield, you've got company of the 50-goal club. Adam Graves has become the first Ranger since 1971-72 when Vic Hatfield did it to score 50 goals in one season. Number 50 gives the Rangers a 1-0 lead, and he does it here in Edmonton. Graves looking for it behind the net, can't reach it, but the Oilers can't clear. Karpovtsev a shot, save, rebound, Graves, he scores! Adam Graves with number 51, and now they've got permission to come off the bench, and here come the Rangers to congratulate Adam Graves. He has number 50 and now number 51 in this period. And the whole Ranger bench off to congratulate the man they call Gravy. He's given the Rangers a 2-0 lead.
Well, Adam Graves helped the Rangers beat Graves' former Edmonton Oilers teammates 5-3. And after a win in Vancouver and a loss in Winnipeg, the Rangers closed out their road trip in Philadelphia.
Sean did a good job to get back. Rangers control the puck. Kovalev, a quick shot, he scores! Kovalev from the left circle just snaps it past Soderstrom with 36.7 seconds remaining.
In the third period, it looked like an innocent enough play, but there again is Alexei Kovalev to steal the show and give the Rangers the 4-3 lead.
And their 4-3 win enabled the Rangers to close out their road trip by reaching the 100-point plateau for the 5th time in franchise history. And it put them in good position for a showdown with second-place New Jersey. With 6 games remaining in the regular season, the Rangers' lead over the Devils was at 2 points as the teams got together at the Meadowlands. The Rangers overcame a 2-0 deficit by scoring 4 second-period goals, the last of which was a gift cashed in by one of the Ranger newcomers.
Boom shoots it all the way down. 6 seconds left. Brodeur forced to handle it. Gives it away to McTavish, who scores! Brodeur was forced to play the puck off the inboards. That negated the icing, but then he gave it away to McTavish, who just backhanded it in with 2.8 seconds to go, and the Rangers take a 4-2 lead.
The Rangers' 4-2 win gave them a clean sweep of the 6-game regular season series, and 6 nights later, New York clinched the regular season championship with a 5-3 win over the Toronto Maple Leafs at Madison Square Garden.
To Nordstrom, gets around Gartner, who takes him down. Gilmore was in there too, but Gartner gets it back, carries in, shoots, kick, save, rebound. Gill puts it in front, stopped by Richter. Matteau gets the puck back for New York. Tried to clear up the middle, but Gill holds it in. Centers, deflection by Gilmore, stopped by Richter. Gilmore gets it back, tries to center, feeds Gartner, quick shot, save made. Puck on the rebound, shoots. Richter stops that. Nordstrom clears it to the board, and then Larmer lifts it out of the zone. Kovalev bursting in over the line with Matteau. Kovalev shoots. He scores! Wow. Kovalev finishes what Richter actually started at the other end with some spectacular saves, and the Rangers take a 3-1 lead.
How about that? You give the puck away 3 times, you end up scoring.
Well, that was the big sequence in the Rangers' President's Trophy clinching 5-3 win, keyed by Alexei Kovalev. His late-season brilliance coincided with his move from right wing to center, helping the Rangers win the President's Trophy with a final regular season record of 52 wins, 24 losses, and 8 ties for 112 points, setting a franchise record for wins and points in a season, winning their second President's Trophy in 3 years. It was a substantial achievement for a team that had missed the playoffs just a year earlier, but the only trophy Ranger fans were really interested in seeing at the Garden was still a long way off.
Countdown to the Cup will continue on Sports Radio 66, WFAN, New York.
Here's news about...
He just would not go down.
This Saturday afternoon. Now let's rejoin Howie Rose.
Based on the final regular season standings, there should have been very little concern about the Rangers' chances in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. After all, New York finished with the best record in the league, and their first-round opponents finished with the 15th best point total among the 16 playoff qualifiers, and they were the 8th and final seed in the Eastern Conference. The only catch, however, was that the Rangers' first-round opposition would be provided by the New York Islanders. Remember, it was Islander fans who originated that 1940 chant during the 1980s, while their team was en route to 4 straight Stanley Cup championships, and the Islanders, who seemingly had always found a way to stand between the Rangers and their pursuit of that elusive championship. Even this season, despite a 28-point disparity between the teams, the Islanders won the season series with the Rangers, 2 wins, 1 loss, 2 ties. Throw in the fact that the Rangers had won just 1 of their last 17 regular season games at the Nassau Coliseum, and it became easy to get nervous. The series opened at Madison Square Garden, and I'll tell you what, if anybody was nervous, they weren't wearing Ranger uniforms. Just 3 minutes, 32 seconds into the first period, with the Rangers on the power play, Brian Leach began the rout.
The Rangers head left to right as Messier feeds Zubov. Up the left side, Leach over the Islander line. High in the slot, he moves up, he shoots, he scores! Brian Leach with a power play goal gets it started. It's 1-0 Rangers. Now Kovalev carries in for the Rangers. Cross ice, pass, winds up on Zubov's stick at the right point, gives it to Kovalev, moves up, down low, Larmer, he shoots, he scores! Another power play goal for the Rangers. Larmer gets this one. It's a 2-0 Ranger lead. From the face-off, Graves pushes the puck out of the Ranger zone. Now chases it at the Islander line on the left wing, drops it for Messier. Sharp angle shot. He scores!
Messier didn't look like he had a prayer on that shot, but somehow it got past Hextall, and the Rangers made it 3-0.
Guinness fires once. Steered aside by Richter. Kukabel chips it ahead to Messier with one man back. Over the line, Messier pulls up on Krupp, shoots, save made, rebound, Graves whacks at it, he scores! And the Rangers, opening it up, have taken a 4-0 lead. Pushes it ahead. Taken down in center was Maley, who's hot. No penalty called. Larmer sends Kovalev in alone. He shoots. He scores! What a move by Kovalev to give the Rangers a 5-0 lead. Zubov tried to field it with his glove, but couldn't keep it in the zone, and now has to send it back to Leach at the Ranger line with 5 seconds left on the power play. Leach to Zubov. Moves quickly over the Islander line. Quick shot. He scores! Zubov makes it a 6-0 Ranger lead.
And that's how it ended. The Rangers' 6-0 opening game win drove Islander goaltender Ron Hextall from the net following that 6th Ranger goal. His replacement, rookie Jamie McLennan, stopped all 11 shots that he faced. So in Game 2, Islander coach Al Arbour went with McLennan. But the story of this game was frighteningly similar to that of Game 1.
Leach moving to the Islander line. Sends to Kovalev, cuts in front. He shoots. Save made. Goal. He scores. It appeared that McLennan had it with the glove, but it deflected home. And the Rangers take a 1-0 lead. Dennis Vasky on the wing. Loses to Messier. Has a breakaway. Cuts in. He shoots. He scores. Laumer leads Kovalev. He's across the end of the line. He shoots. Save made. Arm save by McLennan. Kovalev is on the rebound. He moves to the far side. Now goes cross ice. Lowe has to chase to the corner. He throws back the other way to Kovalev. A long slap is blocked. Loose in front. Laumer shot. Save made. Rebound. Score. Lowe on the rebound. Now Keenan sends it down on the left wing boards intended for Noonan. Knocked away. The Noonan recovers. Keeps Kasparaitis. Cuts into the shot. Score. McTavish got a piece of it off that shot, and the Rangers up 4-0. Off the face, Karpatsa takes at the right point, flips in front to Graves, shot safe, a rebound, he scored.
Stefan Matteau also scored to complete the Rangers' 6-love wins at Madison Square Garden, further highlighted by the play of Mike Richter. The Ranger goaltender picked up his 3rd and 4th career playoff shutouts and was especially impressive during the first half of the first period in Game 2 as the Islanders jumped out to a 13-1 shots on goal advantage. But once Richter established his dominance, the Islanders were through. When the series moved to the Nassau Coliseum for Game 3, Hextall was back in goal for the Islanders. But once again, the Rangers scored early.
Fukaboom behind the Ranger net, gives it to Leach in the far corner. Up the middle, the pass goes to Brian Noonan. He's to the red line. Leach taking it over the line. He slaps. He scores! Essa taken in with a bomb from the top of the left wing circle. Gives the Rangers a 1-0 lead. Noonan along the far boards to the corner. Messier out to the left point. Leach. He shoots. He scores! Leach with a drive from the left point. There was some traffic in front of Hextall, but as Leach let it go, the Rangers take a 2-0 lead.
Leach, who had been a combined +7 in the first 2 games at the Garden, was absolutely brilliant in Game 3. He became only the 3rd defenseman in Ranger history to score 4 points in a playoff game, joining Brad Park and Dave Maloney, a couple of former Ranger captains in the club history books. Leach's goal and 3 assists led the Rangers to a 5-1 win and a 3-0 series lead. Ray Ferraro scored the only goal for the Islanders. It came at the 15-minute, 28-second mark of the second period, and that stopped Mike Richter's shutout streak at 155 minutes and 28 seconds. So now the Rangers were 1 game from a series sweep as the teams played Game 4 at the Nassau Coliseum. This one looked as though it might be a little different. The Islanders scored a pair of quick goals in the first period to take a 2-0 lead. But the hallmark of the 1993-94 Rangers was their poise and resiliency. Alexei Kovalev's power play goal midway through the first period cut the Islander lead to 2-1. And then in the second period, the Rangers took over.
Cross ice Zubov. He floats one rink wide that Messier can't tee up, and Ho clears it, but held in by Leach at the line. Cross ice Zubov. He moves up. He fires. He scores!
Rangers. Zubov ties it at 2, and there was a penalty going to be called to the Islanders, so the Rangers will get another power play as they tie the game 2 apiece.
Adam Graves lifts it out of the Rangers zone. Taken by Malikov. Back at the Islander line. Checked by Messier. Takes it away. Drives in. Shoots. He scores! Messier gives the Rangers a 3-2 lead.
The Rangers took that lead into the third period, and with the Islanders desperate, one might have expected a last strong flurry from them. It never came. Instead, 2 Ranger goals put the game and the series away.
Islanders in their own end. LeChance. Checked by Larmer behind the net. The puck taken away. Centered. Gilbert a shot. He scores! Gilbert pokes it past Hextall to give the Rangers a 4-2 lead.
And the play was Sergei Nemchinov's play all the way. He went in. He was on top of the Islander D. A tremendous play. Turgeon had the puck. He went on top of Turgeon. Plot had the puck. He went on Plot. He just kept digging away. Was able to work it up. Larmer with a big hit as well. And Nemchinov with the steal got it out to Gilbert. Gilbert to save it. I think Larmer put it in eventually. He was the second guy coming through.
Kept in by Malikov. His shot blocked. Comes out of the zone. And here's Messier. Devastating routs in Stanley Cup playoff history. They outscore the Islanders 22-3 over the 4 games. That's a 19-goal differential, the second highest in National Hockey League history for a 4-game series. The Boston Bruins had outscored the St. Louis Blues 28-8 back in 1972, and the Rangers fell just 1 goal against shy of the NHL record of 2 for a 4-game series. That was set in 1935 by Toronto against Boston and by Detroit against Montreal in 1952. The Ranger power play, and we've talked about their special teams' brilliance all year. It was evident against the Islanders. The Ranger power play 8 for 27 in helping them to their first 4-game series sweep since they closed out the Chicago Blackhawks 4 in a row back in 1972. The Rangers' reward was a 1-week layoff before opening the Eastern Conference semifinals at Madison Square Garden against the Washington Capitals. And the Capitals were never an easy task for the New York Rangers. Twice in the early 1990s, the Capitals had eliminated the Rangers in Stanley Cup play, but the Rangers went 5-1-0 against the Caps during the regular season. And although Washington played well during the first 2 games of the series, New York won 6-3 and then 5-2, taking a 2-0 series lead into Game 3 at the US Air Arena in Landover, Maryland. It was expected that the Capitals would come out physically in the 3rd game, but they never really got the chance because they took some penalties that put the Ranger power play to work, and that power play clicked. Minute 10 left to the power play. Messier to Leach. A drop for Noonan. Broken up. Graves gets it back. A backhander save made. Rebound. Leach. He scores! Brian Leach from a sharp angle on the scramble in front gives the Rangers a 1-0 lead with a power play goal. Zubov to the red line, hammers it off the near corner boards behind the net. Beaupre takes the check by Leach, gives it to Messier, backhands, he scores! Leach took it away from Beaupre behind the net, and Messier cashed it in. Another power play goal, and the Rangers lead it 2-0.
Now it was defense and goaltending, 2 more hallmarks of the Rangers season. Steve Larmer's second period goal turned out to be the only other one of the game, as New York took a 3-0 series lead with a 3-0 victory as Mike Richter posted his 3rd shutout of the playoffs. So the Rangers had won their first 7 playoff games of 1994. But Ranger history being what it was, after the Capitals avoided elimination with a 4-2 win in Game 4, all of a sudden, it was nervous time for Ranger fans. Sure, they've been a dominant playoff team so far, but if the Capitals could steal Game 5 at Madison Square Garden, well, then, of course, they'd win Game 6 at home, and, well, you know how the rest goes if you're a neurotic Ranger fan. In Game 5, Adam Graves gave the Rangers a quick 1-0 lead, but then Ranger history popped in for a visit. It wasn't Bobby Schmutz, and it wasn't Ron Francis, each of whom had scored devastating long-range goals against the Rangers in playoffs past, but this time it was Capitals defenseman Kevin Hatcher who sent Ranger fans into a catatonic state.
Right off the face, the Cats shoot all the way down, and it carries home. Richter it. It bounced right by him, Marv. Well, Mike Richter certainly had experience with wild, long shots. And that a surprise goal, a stunner to tie the game at 1.
It came from inside the Washington Capitals blue line. It only tied the game, though, at 5:33 of the first period. But after Richter had allowed that bomb to Ron Francis in the playoffs a couple of years ago, which turned that series against the Penguins around, the fans feared the worst. Well, this year was different, and these Rangers were proving it almost every night. They recovered quickly from Hatcher's fluke goal to go up 3-1. But when the Caps' Sylvain Cote tied the game early in the third period, there was legitimate concern. With less than 4 minutes remaining in regulation time, Brian Leetch, who had been superb throughout these first 2 rounds, brought the Rangers halfway to their destination.
Leach has it behind the goal, and then he's stripped by Hatcher, who clears it around, kept in by Zubov, sends to Leach in front. He walks and he shoots and scores! Brian Leach has given the Rangers a 4-3 lead. 12 and 8/10 seconds remaining. Off the draw. Sent behind the Ranger goal. Played by Kristich. Puts in front. Shot on goal is wide. It's still loose. Side of the net. Final seconds. Still loose. Rangers clear it around the boards, and that will do it. The Rangers off the bench to congratulate Mike Richter, and they have defeated the Washington Capitals by the score 4-3 to take the series in 5.
The Rangers' win sent them to the Eastern Conference Finals after sweeping the Islanders and beating the Washington Capitals in 5 games. Brian Leetch and Mark Messier were brilliant. Each of them had points in all 9 of the games the Rangers had played thus far in the playoffs. And for the right to go to the Stanley Cup Finals, the Rangers would face the team with the second-best record in the National Hockey League, their division rivals, the New Jersey Devils.
Countdown to the Cup will continue on Sports Radio 66, WFAN, New York.
Nobody beats the Wiz and Microsoft introduce a family of software called Microsoft Home that makes working, playing, even learning their own creativity with Microsoft Creative Writer and Fine Artist. Kick back and have some fun with your PC by playing a round of realistic Microsoft Golf, or see the world from the air with Flight Simulator. If you have a job to get done, make it easy and enjoyable with Microsoft Works, Money, or Publisher. When you've got a fact to find, or you're just plain curious about everything, check it out in the Microsoft Encarta Multimedia Encyclopedia or Microsoft Bookshelf. Do you love baseball? Don't miss Microsoft Complete Baseball, the ultimate multimedia reference for every fan that chronicles the history of baseball from the game's earliest days through the current season. The Microsoft Home family of software, as nobody beats the Wiz. Your only limit is your imagination.
Cheeseburger rare.
There's an old saying, eat where the truck drivers eat. And then there's that other memorable saying,
Cheeseburger medium.
stay where the business travelers stay. Courtyard by Marriott, where savvy travelers relax and retool with a spacious room, work desk, mini gym, whirlpool, even in-room coffee. After all, some people know you know what.
Cheeseburger wow.
And some people know hotels. Call your travel agent or 800-321-2211. Courtyard, the hotel designed by business travelers.
This is the sound of Notre Dame football.
Handoff sweeping left, getting up to the 40, to the 45. It's Zeller. Rolls over a man at the 50. Stumbles over a man at the 45. Down the race to the goal line. He's at the 20, the 10, the 5. He makes a touchdown. What a run by Ray Zeller. 62 yards. He just would not go down.
This Saturday afternoon at 2:30, it's the Fighting Irish hosting Bill Walsh's Stanford Cardinal. Our coverage will begin at 1:40 with the Lou Holtz Show. Make sure you catch Notre Dame football this week and all season long on Sports Radio 66, WFAN, New York. WFAN 2020 Sports.
It's 9 o'clock. I'm Bill Daughtry.
The players are prepared to pledge that there will be no interruption of the 1994-95 season and playoffs. No strike, provided there is no lockout and all the takeaways are reinstated. The players are prepared to play under the same terms and conditions as last season. We believe this commitment by the players removes the NHL's only stated reason for the October 1 lockout threat.
Bob Goodnow, the NHL Players Association, with a proposal on Thursday afternoon. The NHL says they will respond to that player proposal at a Friday afternoon news conference here in New York. The decision following a 2-hour conference call with league owners and Commissioner Gary Bettman. The 94-95 NHL season slated to open on Saturday. Thursday brought movement in Major League Baseball's labor dispute. A House Judiciary Committee voted to remove baseball's antitrust exemption if Major League owners impose a salary cap. The measure now goes to the full House and Senate for approval. Another House Subcommittee on Labor Management Relations began hearings on a bill to impose binding arbitration on the baseball dispute if there's no agreement by February 1st. Owners negotiator Richard Ravitch testified before that subcommittee.
We believe that this dispute can and should be resolved by the parties sitting down and agreeing to compromise. We do not think that what we proffered as a solution is unfair, unreasonable, unrepresentative of the needs of sports industries in today's world.
Friday will be the 50th day of the strike, equaling the length of the 1981 baseball work stoppage. New Rich Kids. That's next. Fan 2020 Sports, sponsored by Autoland.
They say it's not over until the fat lady sings. Well, now it's over. Autoland is closing the doors on 94s. Every make, every model, just $94 down and $94 a month, regardless of cost. Fords, Dodges, Chrysler, Plymouth, Jeep Eagles, even new Toyotas, just $94 down and $94 a month. Imagine new Ford Explorers, Dodge Caravans, Chrysler LHSs, Plymouth Voyagers, Jeep Cherokees, Eagle Visions, even new Toyota Camrys, all just $94 down and $94 a month till March of next year. Plus, if we make a deal, we'll even pay off your trade. Autoland is closing the doors on 94s. Every make, every model, it's your choice. Now through Monday till 9 p.m. Exclusively at world-famous Autoland. Route 22 East, Springfield, New Jersey. Call 1-800-AUTOLAND. We're closing the doors on 94s. Don't miss it.
Based on MSRP with approved credit plus tax tags and title. Dealer to subsidize 60-month payments through buyer source till March 1st, 1995. APR may vary. Discounts and rebates in lieu of offer.
Fan 2020 Sports Time 9:03. NBA draft picks number 3 and 13 signed contracts today. At the Palace in Auburn Hills, the Pistons introduced the richest athlete in Detroit history, former Duke star Grant Hill, with an 8-year deal.
I've grown a lot in the last year, both on and off the court. And, college is the best years of your life. And so for me, it was the best thing to do to stay in school. But for other people, different people have different situations, and they got to do what's best for them. So I don't feel any better than them, but I just feel that I feel good about what I've done.
And in Denver, Jalen Rose, the 13th pick overall, autographed a 6-year deal with the Nuggets.
If they want me to bring the ball up, fine. Or get into the offense, fine. I'm willing to do whatever. That's why I try to, work on all my skills. I don't just try to, work on my, shooting or just passing or whatever. I try to, be a complete player so, they can use me in any situation.
Rose's deal worth more than $10 million. Hill's worth more than $40 million. And finally, on the college gridiron, the SEC and the national spotlight this evening, Terry Bowden and his Auburn Tigers trying to make it 16 in a row. Bowden's 9th-ranked War Eagles routing Kentucky in the second quarter. It's Auburn 21, Kentucky nothing. Checking WFAN weather tonight. Windy. It'll be mostly clear. Low temperatures in the 40s in the suburbs. Lower 50s in the city. And on Friday, mostly sunny and breezy. High temperatures remaining in the 60s. Right now, clear, 60 degrees in Central Park. And that's what's happening. I'm Bill Daughtry with 2020 Sports on WFAN, New York's flagship station for Notre Dame football.
It's the NFL on FAN every Sunday. Your day will start at 9 a.m. with Mike Princessa and the NFL Now as we preview and analyze the entire day's schedule. Then at noon, Ed Coleman hosts the NFL in Action, featuring scores and highlights from all the games around the league. And of course, every Sunday, we'll have New York Jets football and Sunday night football, too, here on Sports Radio 66, WFAN, New York. It's Rangers. Now let's rejoin Howie Rose.
The Rangers had beaten the Devils all over North America en route to a 6-game sweep of their regular season series. The Rangers won 3 times in New Jersey, twice at Madison Square Garden, and once in that neutral site game in Halifax. So conventional wisdom indicated that the Devils would have some confidence problems approaching this series. Their outstanding rookie goaltender, Martin Brodeur, had his share of problems against the Rangers during the regular season, but Game 1 sent an immediate message that the regular season was now totally meaningless. In the first game at the Garden, the Rangers took a 2-1 lead into the third period, but the Devils would not go away. Stefan Matteau, who would haunt New Jersey in this series, made a mistake that the Devils converted.
Now it's taken by Zubov behind the Ranger net, winds it around. Stevens keeps it in, centers one. It went past McKay, who was looking for a deflection. Matteau has it along the far board, gives it away to Nichols. He centers there and he shoots, he scores! And Matteau slams his stick at anger against the boards at the far side as his giveaway leads to the tying goal. It's a 2-2 game.
Well, those short little passes, the passes that you want to make to get the play going and out of your zone. Matteau made a little wraparound play to himself and then looked to make the pass up the middle. Just stolen by Bernie Nichols. A beautiful pass across. And the Devils have tied it.
And you should have seen Matteau on the bench. He was angry, stomping his feet, slamming his stick, and Mike Keenan did not put him out for his next couple of shifts. Not as a punishment, but because Matteau was so emotionally wrapped up in his mistake that Keenan didn't want him to compound the situation. However, midway through the third period, with the Rangers on the power play, they regained the lead.
Stevens chips it towards the corner. Larmer after it, shoved by Stevens. Larmer tees it up, holds the puck now. In the circle, centers cross ice. Messier shoots, pad save, rebound, score! Larmer was there to backhand it in for a power play goal. And the Rangers lead it 3-2 with 8:55 remaining in the third period.
Well, that lead held up into the final minute of the third period, although the Rangers did have a chance to put the game away.
Richter out to play it, pressured behind the net. He's checked by Dow, gets the puck to the near corner, and Messier gets it out. Up the right side to Larmer, over the line, drops for Messier, cross ice Graves, broken up by a sliding driver.
And that was a big play by Bruce Driver because that had developed into a 3-on-1 break that the Rangers were unable to finish. However, with the Rangers just 43 seconds away from a Game 1 victory, the Devils spoiled the party.
Rangers trying to clear, they can, it's kept in. Lemieux sends it wide, McLean gets it back, Devils net is empty, McLean puts it in front, it's loose, a scramble, they score! The Devils have tied it with 42.7 seconds remaining in the third period. On a scramble in front, they get Brodeur to the bench and somehow poke it past Richter, and this game is tied at 3.
It was Claude Lemieux who got the tying goal, forcing the Rangers' first overtime game of these playoffs. And after the first 20-minute extra session failed to decide it, Alexei Kovalev had a chance to win it for the Rangers in the second.
From the faceoff, Stevens flips the puck down the ice behind the Ranger goal. Messier takes it, cues it to the near corner to Kovalev. Checked by Chorsky, who flips the puck alongside of the net, bounces behind the goal line. Zubov for the Rangers sends it to Graves on left wing. Rink wide for Kovalev, off the board, on a breakaway, moves it, he shoots, and he misses wide. Big Garum around the board, Stolich. Now to Kovalev, who's checked by Niedermeyer, and he plays it ahead to Chorsky. Kovalev went wide on a semi-breakaway. He had a step, he had 2 steps, and missed the net.
And the rest of the overtime featured Martin Brodeur as the star of the show. His goaltending held the Devils in the game and ultimately helped them win it.
It's Carpenter tipping it ahead on left wing to Richer. Over the Ranger line, drives it on Graves. He's in, he shoots, he scores! Stefan Richer, who won a game in overtime in the Boston series, has done it again. The New Jersey Devils, who trailed 3 times in Game 1, have won it at 15:23 of the second overtime.
Well, so much for the regular season. The Devils had beaten the Rangers for the first time this season to steal the home ice advantage as the Rangers lost their longest playoff game since the epic triple overtime classic won for the Rangers by Pete Stemkowski against Chicago in 1971. So the Rangers were in need of a big lift in Game 2. And on the very first shift of the game, Captain Mark Messier delivered.
Rangers skating from left to right in this first period. Now Leafs to the lead-out. And Senator Anderson knocked away, then he recovers. Poked off the stick by Stevens. Anderson able to get to it. Throws back behind again. Messier with a hard hit that jumped Stevens. He lost his stick. In the process, Lowe keeps it alive and swings it back behind the Devils' goal. It's put around the boards and dumped right back in by Keenan as the Rangers change on the fly. Jones on Anderson come together. They battle along the board. Messier digs it free. Sends to Lowe at the point. Lowe returns to Messier. Puts it front. Keenan shot blocked by Stevens. Lemieux takes for the Devils. Comes back behind the goal. It's taken by Messier. He drives it home. Messier on a steal was able to stop it.
Wow, I'll tell you, Mark Messier has been known to come out and take control of a series or a game, most notably against Mike Keenan and the Chicago Blackhawks while a member of the Edmonton Oilers. Well, he came out and he ran Scott Stevens right over. A big Scott Stevens who wasn't sure. He lost his stick. He knocked him so hard. He then hit Ken Danico. The two of them are teamed together because of the steamroller type of play of a Messier or a Graves, and they're both big and solid defensemen. Then the Rangers were just all over the puck. As the Keenan came in to replace Graves, he kept the puck alive. It ended up behind the net to Messier, who walked out in front and stuffed it through the legs of Martin Brodeur. The Rangers have a 1-0 lead.
And so with that one big shift, Mark Messier lifted the Rangers and seemed to deflate the Devils. However, New Jersey found their composure, and only a brilliant save by Richter in the second period kept New York in front.
Stevens able to twist it around the board. Bookable over skates, try to keep it in, and Trotsky knocked it away. Here's Guerin moving at center on Leaf. Puts a move on him, walks in, breakaway shot, good save and a beauty by Richter. Mike Richter with the glove save, stopping the breakaway.
That kept the game at a 1-0 Ranger lead going to the third period, but goals by Sergei Nemchinov, Glenn Anderson, and Adam Graves broke it open as the Rangers won 4-0 to even the series at 1. For Mike Richter, it was his fourth shutout of the playoffs, tying Davy Kerr's Ranger record, as well as the National Hockey League mark, which had been accomplished 8 times previously. So the series moved to New Jersey for games 3 and 4 as the goaltenders continued to steal the show. Richter and Brodeur were each brilliant in Game 3. Adam Graves' 9th goal of the playoffs at 2:43 of the first period established a new Ranger record for goals in one playoff year. But for the second time in this series, the game eventually went to a second overtime period. Brodeur had stood on his head for New Jersey as the Rangers had much the better of play. But in the second overtime, it was Mike Richter who was called on to make the biggest save of the night.
Messier comes in to play the puck. Messier out by the right point area. Works it along the boards to Zubov. Tried to get it in deep. Carpenter broke it up. Quick pass up the middle to Lemieux, getting help from Albelin. Lemieux feeds Albelin. He shoots. Kick save. Richter. Rebound, dribbles along the goal line. Zubov clears it.
Finally, just over 6 minutes into the second sudden death overtime period, the evening's hero emerged.
Kovalev gets it back. Now to Matteau in the near corner. Tries to put in front. Broken up. Matteau gets it again. Now to Anderson behind the net. He centers. Kovalev in deep. Shoots. And Brodeur's got it. The rebound in front. Matteau scores! That's a winner! That is a winner for Stefan Matteau. And the New York Rangers in double overtime. And the Rangers win it 3-2.
And remember how nauseous Matteau was after making that mistake in Game 1, the giveaway that led to Guerin's goal? Well, he redeemed himself big time there. And as delighted as the Rangers were with their win, Coach Mike Keenan, well, he was incensed because during the game, New Jersey's Bernie Nichols nailed New York's Alexei Kovalev with a cross-check to the head. Although the play went unpenalized, Keenan was furious.
I'm also going to call for Bernie Nichols to be suspended. He deliberately tried to injure Alex Kovalev when Alex was defenseless on his hands and knees. He delivered a very serious cross-check to his neck. And I hope that Mr. Bettman and Mr. Burke review it and suspend him.
Well, Keenan got what he wanted. The National Hockey League suspended Nichols for Game 4, but the Devils appeared to use that to their advantage. Playing an inspired first period without Nichols, New Jersey took a 2-0 lead, but Keenan appeared to panic. He pulled Richter in favor of Glenn Healy. Brian Leach was benched for large portions of the game. Craig McTavish and Brian Noonan didn't see the ice for the last 2 periods. And even Mark Messier, who had scored at least 1 point in each game of the playoffs, had his ice time reduced. The Devils won the game 3-1, and afterwards Keenan was pressed for an explanation.
Technical aspects that we felt we have to improve upon, and that included Michael as well, and for that reason we did pull him.
Well, that explains the Richter situation, but what about all those benchings? After the game, Keenan essentially said there were some injuries.
Now, it's highly unusual for a coach to divulge specific injuries to specific players during the Stanley Cup playoffs, so at least it appeared that Keenan spilled the beans. Or did he?
Countdown to the Cup will continue on Sports Radio 66, WFAN, New York.
With the market behaving the way it has lately, everybody could benefit from some analysis. Financial analysis, that is. You see, the most important thing you can do with your money today is see that it's invested in the right places. And that's the job of our experienced financial consultants at Dime Securities. They'll sit down with you face-to-face, and with the aid of our personalized asset allocation program, analyze your existing investments, then recommend ways to potentially maximize your returns. You'll get sound investment advice without any sales pressure. Should your portfolio require some fine-tuning, we offer a wide range of stocks, bonds, annuities, and mutual funds to choose from. And you can check your investments anytime you're in the bank. It's that convenient. So call 1-800-YES-DIME today and arrange for 30 minutes of free analysis. You'll be happy you did. Non-deposit investment products offered by Dime Securities, Inc. are not FDIC-insured deposits, are not obligations of or guaranteed by the Dime Savings Bank of New York, and involve risk, including possible loss of principal.
This weekend, the Rangers start their journey to make it 2 Stanley Cups in a row as they open up the season at the Meadowlands on Saturday night at 7:30. Howie Rose and Sal Messina will bring you all the action. We've also got a ton of great football on the Fan this weekend. Bill Walsh and the Stanford Cardinals visit South Bend and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish at 2:30 Saturday afternoon. Then on Sunday, it's an NFL doubleheader with the Jets in Cleveland to meet the Browns at 1 p.m. and the Dolphins and Bengals in Cincinnati at 7:45. All this plus scores, highlights, and your chance to...
...30 fuel injectors. Sale of the year.
Paint, doing it right. It's Countdown to the Cup, WFAN's tribute to the New York Rangers. Now let's rejoin Howie Rose.
So did Mike Keenan really spill the beans about Ranger injuries? Well, Brian Leach's shoulder was troubling him. In fact, he had it frozen before Game 5. But as for the others, basically the usual aches and pains associated with playoff injuries, they play through them, generally. And so Mike Keenan was put in a very defensive position going into the 5th game at Madison Square Garden. Essentially now it was a best-of-3 series, but the Rangers seemed demoralized by Keenan's tactics. Messier met privately with his coach before the 5th game, and although the Rangers were banged up to a point, it was their psyches that appeared most bruised. The Rangers came out well enough in Game 5, but just under 7 minutes into the first period, with the Rangers on the power play, Bernie Nichols, the former Ranger who had been forced to miss Game 4, made an emphatic return.
Leach trying to keep in, could not. Played by Lemieux, pulls away from Leach. One man back, Zubov. Lemieux fires, save made, rebound, score! Bernie Nichols, following the play, pounded it to the empty net with Richter reacting to the initial shot by Lemieux. It is a shorthanded goal.
And the Rangers seemed to sag after that, although the score remained 1-0 through 2 periods. The Devils scored 3 times in the 3rd and won it 4-1 to take a 3-2 series lead back to the Meadowlands with a chance to wrap it up in Game 6. The Rangers appeared to be a tired, spent, old, and nearly beaten team by this point. Leach played that game after having that shoulder frozen and did not so much as register a shot on goal. Messier's point-scoring streak was stopped at 13 straight games. Richter was having trouble with rebounds. Kovalev had not registered a point in the entire series. And to make matters worse, in Game 5, Ranger defenseman Jeff Bukaboom drilled New Jersey's Stéphane Richer from behind, and although no penalty was called, this time the Devils screamed in protest, and Bukaboom was suspended for Game 6. With all of this stacked against them, and with the team's confidence in Keenan somewhat eroded, Mark Messier took over. The captain guaranteed that the Rangers would win Game 6. Guaranteed. The last time a New York athlete made any guarantees was when Joe Namath accurately promised that the New York Jets would pull off the greatest upset in pro football history by beating the Baltimore Colts in Super Bowl III. Well, Messier's guarantee didn't look so hot in the first period as the Devils scored twice, and their 2-0 lead held up into the final 2 minutes of the second period. That's when Messier went to work.
First, he set up Alexei Kovalev, who had been moved by Keenan from center to right wing.
The puck regained by Guerin of the Devils. Then he gave it away to Messier, who starts up the middle. Cuts to his right over the New Jersey line. A drop pass to Kovalev, who steps up. He shoots. He scores! Alexei Kovalev with his first point of the series. Messier made the drop pass, and with 1:41 to go in the second period, it's now a 2-1 Devils lead.
That goal gave the Rangers some momentum heading into the third period, with summertime still staring them right in the face. New York did trail 2-1, but then Mark Messier put forth one of the most powerfully dramatic performances in Stanley Cup playoff history.
Brian Leach, stick candles, past Carpenter. Headman's on the right wing to Kovalev. Moving it over the Devil line, cuts to the slot, feeds Messier, backhands, he scores! Messier has tied it at 2 with 17-12 to go in the third period. Kovalev's got it. Cross ice Leach, moving to the New Jersey line. Drops it for Kovalev, left circle, slap shot, save, rebound, score! Messier has cashed in the rebound with 7:48 to go in the third period, and the Rangers take a 3-2 lead. Off the draw, Litster winds it around, not out. Messier gets it back, shoots it all the way down, he scores! Messier hits the open net with 1:45 to go in the third period. That's the hat trick for Captain Mark Messier. There's still 1:45 to go, but now it's a 4-2 Ranger lead.
Oh, Messier had delivered. His natural hat trick gave New York a 4-2 win, tying the series, and was destined to take its place among the most memorable and remarkable accomplishments in New York sports history. Now everything was in place for what would prove to be an epic seventh game. Richter and Brodeur battled on even terms into the second period at Madison Square Garden, but at 9:31 of the second period, with the game still scoreless, Brian Leach evoked memories of one of hockey's all-time greats.
Messier draws with Dowd. Rangers control it. Leach takes it to the corner. Leach turning, moves in front, backhand. He scores! Brian Leach has given the Rangers a 1-0 lead.
Oh, wow. That's a Bobby Orr play. That's a play that I don't know that anybody would really attempt. That was a fantastic play by Brian Leach. He carried down the left side. He's on a left-handed shot. He goes to go behind it, and he spins around and walks out and backhands it through the goaltender's leg. What a great play, and a big time in his hockey game. Unbelievable. Brian Leach just spun around on the D. I don't think anybody expects another player to make a move like that. I remember that's Bobby Orr in '72, a similar move. What a phenomenal play, and he beat Guerin to do it.
And that goal stood into the game's final minute of regulation, with the Garden crowd howling in anticipation of the Rangers' first trip to the Stanley Cup Finals in 15 years. New Jersey coach Jacques Lemaire managed to pull Martin Brodeur in favor of a sixth skater. Just as the final buzzer approached, all of the demons that had tortured the Ranger franchise for more than a half-century conspired simultaneously to deliver an almost incomprehensible blow.
Bukaboom slaps it hard around. Sits in the corner, 12 seconds left. Devil center. And there was shot. Save made. They score on the rebound. Richter is furious. 7.7 seconds remain in the third period. There was a scramble in front, and the Devils have tied it at 1.
Valery Zelepukin received credit for the goal, and now somehow the Rangers were forced to regain their composure and come out for overtime yet again. For the third time in this series, 2 overtime periods were needed to settle the issue. Nearly 4 minutes into the second overtime, the Devils almost had it.
Up the right side, Anderson, over the line, closes in, floats one through the slot, bounces to the far corner, Anderson on it there, left circle, he's pummeled from behind by McLean, and the Devils come out. A lead for Niedermeyer on the left side, up to the Ranger line, cross ice, Richer in the slot, he shoots, save Richter, the rebound is loose, it's behind the net, all the way in the far corner, and Noonan comes away with it.
Well, just seconds later, one of the most dramatic, euphoric moments in New York Rangers history took place.
Rangers changing. Fetisov for the Devils plays it cross ice into the far corner. Matteau swoops in to intercept. Matteau behind the net. Swings it in front. He scores! Matteau! Defend Matteau! And the Rangers have one more hill to climb, baby! But it's Mount Vancouver! The Rangers are headed to the finals!
For the 10th time in team history and the first in 15 years, the Rangers would play for the Stanley Cup.
Countdown to the Cup will continue on Sports Radio 66, WFAN, New York.
Hi, I'm Howie Rose, and from what they tell me, I think you've probably heard me mention the name Matteau several times. Well, now you can meet New York Rangers playoff hero Stéphane Matteau this Sunday, October 2nd, from 3 to 5 p.m. at 1FI Cards, 2FI Comics. Autographs are $10 each. Photos, pucks, programs, and more will be available for the signing. Call 914-725-2225 for details on how to meet the only player in NHL history to score 2 double overtime winning goals in a playoff series. 1FI Cards, 2FI Comics, Westchester's #1 source for New York Rangers items, including CCM authentic and replica hockey jerseys, team jackets, signed and unsigned licensed photos, plaques, lithographs, hockey cards, Stanley Cup merchandise, and more. They also carry a wide variety of new and old sports and non-sports cards, so be sure to stop by 1FI Cards, 2FI Comics this Sunday from 3 to 5 p.m. and meet Stéphane Matteau. Call 914-725-2225.
Back to throw. There's a left side. I believe. The Giants take the pivot. The Giants take the pivot. The Giants take the pivot. And they're going crazy. They're going crazy.
That's the sound of the shot heard round the world. It was 1951 and the culmination of baseball's most amazing comeback. This Tuesday night at 8:05. We'll turn back the clock to October 3rd, 1951, and you'll hear the game in its entirety. It's classic baseball on the Fan as the Giants host the Dodgers to decide the pennant. Howie Rose will be your guide, so tune in early to the Fan, Sports Radio 66, WFAN, New York.
Is now wide open.
It's Countdown to the Cup, WFAN's tribute to the New York Rangers. Now let's rejoin Howie Rose.
The Rangers' final round opponents were the Vancouver Canucks, making their first appearance in the finals since 1982. The Rangers won both regular season meetings with Vancouver, although they saw how much that meant against the Devils. Now, to beat the Canucks, the Rangers would have to contend with the dynamic Pavel Bure, who registered 60 goals and 107 points during the regular season. What the Rangers couldn't have figured, though, was that Vancouver goalie Kirk McLean would prove to be as difficult to beat as the Devils' Martin Brodeur. The first 2 games of the finals were played at Madison Square Garden, and in Game 1, the Rangers looked as though they might blow the Canucks out of the building early. After getting good pressure on McLean, the Rangers broke through on a power play at the 3:32 mark.
Here comes Kovalev at center. He's up to the Vancouver line, geeking his way, then holds, sends a pass onto the stick of Leach, throws back to Kovalev. Kovalev cuts in and shoots, save made, rebound, score!
Steve Larmer scored the first goal of the Stanley Cup Finals, giving New York a 1-0 lead, but that was all that the Rangers could put past McLean for 2 periods. And after Vancouver's Brett Hedican tied the game at 1 at 5:45 of the third, Leach and Kovalev combined to put New York in front again.
Leach comes back forward, watched by Linden, throws to his right to Zubov, returns to Leach. Leach moving at center. Leach is up to the Vancouver line. Leach turns. Leach feeds and puts up. Score! Kovalev set up by Leach. Oh, what a play!
It gave the Rangers a 2-1 lead. Now, twice during the New Jersey series, the Rangers had taken 1-goal leads into the closing minute of games, only to see the Devils tie it up. Unbelievably, in Game 1 of the finals, it happened again.
Hedican, a flip for Messier, goes pass ice to Ronning, shoots from the angle, he scores! Through the pads of Richter, and with only 1 minute remaining in this third period, the Canucks have tied the game at 2.
It was a floater by Ronning that was deflected in by Martin Gelinas, so again, the Rangers would be forced to go to overtime. New York pounded away, taking 17 shots on goal during the overtime period, but McLean was absolutely unbeatable. Then, with help from the crossbar, Game 1 turned against the Rangers.
Here's Keenan setting up. Back to the goal. Flips to Leach. Leach to the slot. He shoots, and it hit the crossbar. He hit the crossbar. Back comes Bure, leading Ronning out at center. He's hit across the line. A drop for Adams. He shoots. He scores! And the Vancouver Canucks have defeated the New York Rangers in overtime.
The Canucks stole the game. The Rangers outshot them 54-31, but Kirk McLean had done the job pilfering Game 1 for Vancouver. In Game 2, Doug Lidster, who had spent most of the season as one of Mike Keenan's black aces and finally played against the Devils only because of Bukaboom's suspension, opened the scoring against his former Vancouver Canuck teammates.
Lidster scampers right back in for the Rangers, down the left boards, in for a shot, and he scores! Lidster went to the net, had to wait for a second as that puck seemed to lay at the skates of McLean, but finally the red light went on. The Rangers celebrate. They have a 1-0 lead.
Sergio Momesso tied it for Vancouver before the end of the first period, but in the second, with the Rangers killing a penalty, a couple of former Edmonton Oilers champions came through.
Trevor Linden pries the puck free, but his cross-ice pass is picked off by Messier. Racing on Brown. Messier drives to the net. McLean a piece of it, and then it rolls wide, and then Messier puts in front and they score! Anderson was in front to poke it past McLean for a short-handed goal, and the Rangers have taken a 2-1 lead.
Well, the 2-1 lead held up into the game's final minutes. So here we went again. The Rangers and their fans had to sweat out some late pressure.
Bure has the puck behind the Vancouver net, watched by Messier. Pavel Bure starts up ice. Now up the right side to Brown. Cross-ice pass to Adams. In over the line. He's bumped. Following is Brown. Takes it to the corner. Centers. Deflection. Richter the save. 10 seconds left. Rangers trying to clear. They do. They clear it towards the empty net. And it goes in. They score. The Rangers, with 4 seconds left, have hit the empty net to take a 3-1 lead.
It was Brian Leach shooting it from his own end of the ice into the empty net, and so now the series was tied at a game apiece as the teams flew to Vancouver for Games 3 and 4. In New York, the Rangers had completely neutralized Pavel Bure. Just a shade over a minute into Game 3, however, Bure made his presence felt. Jay Wells shovels one from behind the red line towards the Vancouver net. It's cut off by Lume of the Canucks, who works it out to center to Linden. Here's a lead for Bure on a breakaway. Cuts it, he shoots, he scores!
Pavel Bure has come alive, and at 1:03 of the first period, the Canucks take a 1-0 lead.
This was a very physical game, with both sides taking the body with gusto at every opportunity. The Rangers tied the game when McLean misplayed Leach's flip shot from the left point. But then, with 1 minute and 39 seconds remaining in the first period, the Rangers received one of the crucial breaks of the series. All right, it cost New York's Jay Wells some blood, but when he was high-sticked by Bure, the Rangers were given a 5-minute power play, and Bure was assessed a game misconduct. The Rangers quickly took the lead.
Diddick shoots it out of the zone for Vancouver. Nemchinov lugs it in over the Vancouver line along the near boards. Sergei Nemchinov driving towards the slot. Shoots, he scores! Nemchinov let it go with Anderson in front. And it may well be a Glenn Anderson deflection that has given the Rangers a 2-1 lead.
It was Anderson getting credit for the tip-in, and now without Bure, the Canucks were noticeably deflated. Late in the second period, Brian Leach gave the Rangers some insurance.
Bukaboom backing up, met by Ronning. Feeds it up to Leach. Now it's a 5-on-5. Leach to Keenan for a blast. Stick save, rebound. Leach, he scores! Leach got the rebound and backhanded it past McLean to give the Rangers a 3-1 lead.
Third period goals by Steve Larmer and Alexei Kovalev helped give the Rangers a 5-1 win, which left them just 2 games from the Stanley Cup with a 2-1 series lead. Now that the Rangers had regained the home ice advantage for the series, it was the Canucks desperately needing to win in their building to avoid falling behind 3-1. Vancouver started strongly in Game 4, taking a 2-0 lead after the first period. Brian Leach pulled the Rangers to within 2-1 at 4:03 of the second, but shortly thereafter began probably the biggest sequence of the series.
It's to Leach in the right circle, darts back towards the line, poked off the puck by Bure, ahead of the field, hooked down by Leach. Let's see if it's a penalty shot. The touch by Adams and the shot saved by Richter. Let's see, is Terry Gregson going to point to center? Yes, he is. And a penalty shot will be called.
Well, remember now, during January's All-Star game at Madison Square Garden, Mike Richter made several one-on-one saves against Bure. Now he was asked to do it under the most pressurized circumstances in hockey.
The puck is at the center ice dot, and here comes Bure, straight down the middle, over the line. He cuts to the net, he deeks, he shoots, and a kick save is made by Richter. Pavel Bure on a penalty shot is stopped by Mike Richter.
That was the turning point of the Stanley Cup Finals. In the final minute of the second period, on the power play, New York's Sergei Zubov, who had missed Game 3 with a chest injury, tied the score.
Messier after it, held off by McIntyre, but Messier gets it to Leach. Cross ice, Zubov, a drive, sails wide, he missed the net. 22 seconds to the period. Messier, pursued by McIntyre, holds the puck. Feeds Zubov straight away at the line. He winds, he shoots, he scores! Zubov, a power play goal to tie it at 2 with 15.2 seconds left in the second period.
The game stayed tied well into the third period, with each team getting quality scoring chances. After the Rangers killed off a penalty to Messier, Martez Jelenov, the Canucks, was sent off for roughing. And once again, the Ranger power play connected.
Now Leach holding up, starting slowly out of his own zone for New York. Gets to the red line, makes a move to get over the Vancouver line, slides it in front. Kovalev score! Kovalev got it from Leach, and the Rangers with a power play goal take a 3-2 lead with 4:55 to go in the third period.
Then, with just over 2 minutes to play, the Rangers were fortunate to find some breathing room.
Zubov chipping it ahead for Larmer, who carries to center. Larmer to the red line, shoots a bouncer, he scores! Larmer threw it at the net from the blue line, and somehow it got past McLean with 2:04 to go in the third period. The Rangers have taken a 4-2 lead.
Brian Leach was magnificent in that Rangers 4-2 win with a goal and 3 assists. And hard as it might have been for long-time Ranger followers to believe, with a 3-1 series lead, the Rangers were going home to try and win the Stanley Cup. When you think back on it, Ranger fans should have known better. I mean, who were they to ever believe that the Stanley Cup was a lock? Not with their history. Not even with a 3-1 lead in the finals in Game 5 at the Garden. But it seemed as though everyone had conceded that Thursday, June 9th, would be the night. That's what the front page of the New York Post said that day. Tonight's the night, the headline blared. Yeah, another Post exclusive. But how can you blame them? The fans felt it. All of the media felt it. The Ranger players probably felt it. And if the Canucks were feeling it, well, they seemed to feed off of everyone else's self-assuredness. Vancouver played very well in the first period of Game 5, although midway through the period, the Rangers appeared to have taken the lead.
It's cleared ahead by Wells. Connecting with Matteau at center. Leach taking in. He's to the line. He shoots. He scores!
Well, offsides on a play, Mark.
Messier going at Leach, and Bookabom riding into the Messier this after the whistle.